Good evening, Ms. Heather Reisman and the executive team. My name is Ria, and these are my colleagues Cameron and Nate, and we are Prestige Solutions. We're so excited about the opportunity to work with you as you look towards a sustainable future. So what we are here to do today is to ultimately hold your hand through and recommend a strategy that will facilitate long-term growth. We've conducted a brief analysis. Now, in your last quarter sales has indicated growth, which is good. However, we have taken a step back and looked at the past 5 years. What it indicates, in fact, is that 3 out of the 5 years have actually performed under what your target has been for your organization. And so these positive profits that have resulted in the last quarter can mean 2 things. The first being efficient operations, which is very possible, and the second being an introduction of fads. Now, we have taken a deeper look at your organization and have seen that the introduction of products such as American Girl have in fact resulted in positive growth. However, these products are what is known as fad products, and with the decline of that, this is where your organization faces a risk, and which is how we're going to help you ultimately go to a long-term sustainable future. So we have also assessed some of the opportunities and threats. And there are 2 opportunities. First is a U.S. expansion, and that would be by opening your basic brick and mortar stores. The other would be to stay within the Canadian market and focus in on what you have to offer and diversify the products that you have to offer. Now, I'd like to take a step back and focus in on your target customer. This is a key asset to your organization, as the strategy that we recommend to you today will focus on your target customer rather than the products that you offer. So take, for example, one of your customers, Kevin. He's 21 years old, currently studying at university. He lives in a suburban home and wants to get away from that noise, so he goes to the local Indigo shop. There, he purchases a coffee and a blueberry muffin to start off his studying session. He notices a water bottle that his sister may like, so he grabs that as well. Now, while he is studying and also enjoying the amenities that your store offers through the coffee shop, he also finds a book on Italy that he plans to go onto the Europe trip. So not only has he purchased a book there, but he has also purchased a water bottle, something that is offered with the environment that your store offers or could offer in the long term. So keeping that in mind, the strategy that we have for you today is one that focuses on your customers and not your products. And it's the environment that you provide to them. Now, your customer is walking in ultimately because they have an interest in books or wants that quiet space, but will walk out with those spontaneous purchases that your store offers, like those water bottles or pillows. And so a second part of that also includes strengthening your competitive advantages. Now, if you had chosen to enter into the U.S. market, this would also require understanding the customers in that market. Here in Canada, you already have all the research done because you operate here, and so you can use that to strengthen your advantage. And with that, I'd like to invite Cam.
Thanks, Ria. So as Ria mentioned, your stores or your business is in a unique place where you have had short-term success and you're really eager to grow and to expand. But the problem with that is that this is an ideal environment for unwise investments. The one thing that I really want you to take away, if you take away anything from us today, is that you can't just invest for the sake of investing. You have to invest in an area where you're better or going to be better than your competition. So when we look at your opportunities for investment, the 2 major opportunities identified are either going online or going to the United States market. So before you make that decision, you really have to focus on who is the existing competition in that market and what can you do to be better. So if you look at the online market, everyone thinks that the online market is driven by technology and a cool sales front, but it's really driven by a supply chain. A supply chain that can get these products to your customer quickly and efficiently without errors. And unfortunately, right now, Indigo is just too late to the party to really have a competitive advantage in that. Amazon has been strenuously investing in their supply chain for the last 5 to 10 years and is at a point where competitors can't match it in terms of delivery time, and you can't match it with price because you have those bricks and mortar stores as well. So ultimately, your fixed costs will never be low enough to compete in that online market with stores like Amazon as your main driver of profits. The second opportunity for strategic investment is going to the United States, and if you were to go to the United States, now would be the ideal time. Barnes & Noble is just closing, which is leaving lots of storefront space ready for a bookstore to move in. You can buy those properties and move in much quicker and less expensive than having to build a new brick and mortar from scratch. But in order to do that, like I said before, you have to be in an environment where you can do what Barnes & Noble can't. So you look at, why did Barnes & Noble truly fail? What is it that they couldn't bring? They couldn't bring the low prices that Walmart and other big department stores are bringing. And if you look at your stores right now, because you are so bricks and mortar focused, because your fixed costs are higher than the average retail market, causing those fluctuations in profits, you're not really in a position to compete on price with Walmart. So what that would have you doing is it would have you entering a new market as a very similar entrant to one that just failed, competing against a bigger, more efficient competitor in a market where you have absolutely no brand recognition. It's not ideal for investment, and it's an ideal place to sink lots of money, sink capital for low returns and risky returns. So instead, we recommend today that you remain in Canada and focus on building your business model that you're currently receiving a competitive advantage from. But as Ria mentioned, that doesn't mean being stagnant. It doesn't mean just doing what you're doing. It means improving on your market by better focusing on your target customer. So what this new environment would look at and this new business model would look at is a more specialized approach to different target customers. Right now, you've done a good job in opening big department stores and small stores to reach different aspects of the market. But ultimately, your small stores are just smaller replicas of your bigger stores. So what that's happening is you're actually cannibalizing your customers who would go to your store anyway because they like the environment, because they like your atmosphere, your business model. They just don't have to travel as far. But are you really losing that customer? We don't think so. So instead, we think that you should start closing some stores, but offering a more specialized aspect at each store. So what this would look like is your smaller stores would be targeted at a different target customer than your bigger department stores. People who enjoy smaller coffee shops are more college students, younger people, more book lovers who are looking for a quiet space, a study space to either collaborate or study or meet with friends. So by taking your small stores and really changing the environment, as Nate will talk to you about, to be more specialized and targeted for that specific customer, you can then leave your department stores to target a different customer. And those are the customers who are more likely to browse when they have an afternoon off. Take your target customer being a parent who is dropping their kid off at soccer practice and then going to their local Indigo to have a coffee and browse before they pick them up. It's two very distinct customers, and by targeting each store towards that customer, there's really two outcomes that can come from it. The first is that you can close more stores because they're going to be more specialized. Your small stores you can target in areas that are more attractive and more focused on that smaller target customer, and the big stores in more areas such as malls, more urban, heavy, populous areas. And the second aspect of that is you can specialize what type of products you're going to sell in those stores to that specific target customer. Your business model and the success of your business model in the future really is driven from your ability to sell customers what they don't want or what they don't need. So it's something that what we like to call, they don't know they want the product until they see the product, until they're in there for a coffee or a study session and it jumps out at them. These are smaller products, smaller priced items, things that really customers don't put the same time into researching before they buy them. The water bottles, the travel books, the blankets, cups, tea mugs, all of these variety of products will be wrapped up for that target customer. So instead of offering a singular line of products that are surrounded by books and book lovers, you offer everything that your target customer could possibly want, from what they do not only while reading books, but while spending time with family, going on road trips, any of these small gadgets they need. And by doing that, you can set up yourself to have lower fixed costs, as Nate will explain to you briefly. So by lowering your fixed costs and having more specialized targeted revenue streams, you'll be able to have a more sustainable profit growth and sustainable profits in the future.
Thank you, Ken. All right, Mr. Eastman, I can see by the look on your face that you have some questions for us in terms of what we're trying to sell you. And what we're proposing is quite contrary to what you usually go with. So, in the history of your company, you pursue a growth strategy. So you grow, you make money, you expand further and further. And in the last 2 years, that's paid off for you in terms of your margins. But prior to that, you saw some decreased margins as a result of heavy capital investment. It might seem counterintuitive to sort of back away from that approach, especially since you have realized the margin increase in the last 2 years. However, pursuing a growth strategy, especially in the context of today's economy, just doesn't make sense for your business. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because your target markets are moving away from the bricks and mortar of the 90s and the early 2000s and focusing in on convenience. And you need to be there for them in terms of being conveniently located and keeping a monitor on your fixed costs. So what we're suggesting to you is that you turn away from the States altogether. If you went to the States, you'd have a situation similar to maybe what happened to Target when they came to Canada. You don't have the supply chain, so you rapidly expand throughout the States. You get blown out of the water right away. You can't compete in terms of price with Amazon. You can't compete with the other major competitors down there. And at the end of the day, it's just going to drive your fixed costs quite high, and you'll realize diminishing returns, have to sell off your assets, and come back to Canada. So instead, focus on your brand within Canada. You have great recognition here. Your brand is trending throughout Canada. And your differentiation approach to having smaller stores and larger box stores has really benefited your business. Now, as Cam sort of mentioned, you could do a lot more, and that's what we're proposing to you. In terms of your smaller stores right now are sort of a microcosm of your bigger stores. So they're doing the same thing, one's just a little bit smaller than the other. What we want to suggest to you is that you actually look at your business and you split it sort of into two separate groups. So we have the larger department stores, so we'll focus on affluent middle age, and then the smaller stores will be focused on the comforting experiences that students and millennials are looking for. So perhaps on a college campus where they can go an area of study, collaborative space where they can work on projects, free Wi-Fi, and getting them in your door, especially if you have an accessible sort of app situation, will drive your sales in that respect. So it'd be smaller items, again, the teas, the blankets, the mittens, and so forth. On the other side of that spectrum, with your bigger box stores, you need to consolidate. So looking at your current operations, you're going to need to find out which stores are the most profitable and which ones you can axe. Now, it may not be very popular to axe certain stores, but consolidating your larger operations will make your brand a little bit more exclusive. And what you can do as well, you've already sort of initiated, but we propose that you drive a little bit further with the American Girl model. Open up your floor space and bring in sort of niche products, and that takes some of the risks of the brick and mortar operations off your shoulders. So rent out space, get in these niche American brands that aren't available anywhere else in Canada, and that way you get middle class, affluent individuals coming in and taking a look. And sort of driven off the same principles. They're not going to be as focused on technology, but they're going to be focused more on coming in and seeing these things, and it's really a marketing sort of approach. So now let's talk some numbers. So in terms of closing, fixed cost per stores right now costs you about $500,000 per store. So initially, that will be some cost savings from closing. So we're proposing over the next 5 years that you close 24 stores. That's again more of the smaller to medium size, the less profitable centers. Within some of your cities, like for example Winnipeg, instead of having 3, you consolidate on one more populous area, such as the Kenaston area, where you're sort of situated within an affluent area, especially a trending area. You will lose some initial gross profits for each of those store closed, so your net cash flow in the first year of operation will be about $9 million. However, looking long term, the cost benefit to you is about $20 million. So we projected that the NPV analysis after 5 years is about $51 million. So there is some benefit there for you as well for the consolidation. And again, the way that we consolidate that is by lowering our fixed costs and opening up our top line revenues by bringing in people or individuals to set up shop on our floors, which will drive our sales. And again, we're looking more for an experience than necessarily a straight-up bookstore, for example. And yeah, I'd like to open the floor to any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question about the stores that you want to close.
Okay.
Why would I be closing stores based on their location rather than on their existing profitability?
I think that was a miscommunication on my point. So it's not necessarily on location, it's taking or analyzing the stores that you have open, figuring out which ones are less profitable, and then consolidating those profit centers. So again, I'll use the Winnipeg example because it's familiar to all of us. Instead of having one out in Kildonan, in the KP Mall, having one out in Polo Park, you have a larger center and then you have satellites that offer different things. So have a satellite at the U of W, have a satellite at the U of M. They offer a different experience than, let's say, the Mage Indigo shop down on Keniston.
Another question I have is, if you say it's primarily a marketing problem, what is my brand?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. One, you have a similar brand image in, I mean, it's not quite there, but it's similar to something like HBC, so it's exclusively Canadian, it's sort of on the higher end side of the scale. It offers not only, it's almost on the luxury side, so that's sort of your value proposition there.
If I had to explain your brand in one word, I'd probably say it's comfort. And what you provide is a sense of comfort for your customers that they can not only experience in the store, but bring home with them too. So your target market is really looking for a more comfortable shopping experience. They don't want to have to shift through Walmart lines. They don't want to have to fill around online. They want to be able to have a comfortable experience while they're shopping, and that's why they go to your store.
In your presentation, you're saying a large part of our traffic is for the experience, not necessarily for the product. So you're saying that I have two types of customers. I have those who are coming for experiences, and I have those that are coming in to get a particular product and leaving. Why can't I do the same thing in the same location? Serve both customers.
I think if you look at the demographic of the target markets that we're suggesting that the more affluent individuals aren't necessarily going in for the experiment or experience. They're going in because they have a specific item that they'd like to purchase. Whereas when you're looking at millennials, for example, university students, they're not necessarily going there because they want to buy a book. They're going there because it's a collaborative space, and so that's the experience side. And the idea behind the experience side, again, is once you get them through the doors, then you make it comfortable for them. So you give them the amenities that they would have at their house, but you still have a collaborative workspace that's very inclusive. Whereas on the other side of it, you're focusing more on the high-end sort of niche brands, which gets...
But following that, these millennials seem to be cash-strapped.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming here for a cup of coffee and to chat with their friends or work with their friends. Are they going to buy throws and travel gimmicks and gadgets and whatever?
I think that you're underestimating how cash-strapped the millennials is,
I'm
especially
underestimating or overestimating?
whichever you want to call it.
Okay.
But either way, I think that millennials, especially now, the student loans are very easy to come by. Lots of students have part-time jobs, and we are targeting the students who do have a little bit more money, have more disposable income, the ones who can afford to spend $5 or $6 on a cup of coffee, can also afford to spend $10 or $15 on a mug or a travel book.
And it's the same sort of principle as a Starbucks, so what you're selling is affordable luxury, right? Everyone likes to be pampered, but effectively that's what you're doing.
Okay, let's cut it there. Thanks. Okay.